In the previous episode, our weak and struggling hunter stumbled upon a mythic item, awakening powers far beyond human limits. But his joy didn't last long. A deadly challenge appeared right away. The goddess of the underworld descended and gave him an ultimatum: defeat her monstrous boss within 2 months. With his current strength, it would be nothing short of suicide. Desperate, he made a bold decision: to undergo intense training under one of the top S-rank hunters in the nation, hoping to grow strong enough to survive. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, click the link at the top right corner to catch up. And now, let's jump into part 2, to see how our main character tackles this terrifying boss fight. Despite the shocking surprises, Song-eun could tell Jaehyun's mana was tanking hard. His battery? Dead. His magical gas tank? Empty. And then wham! She ended the fight with one clean blow. Jaehyun hit the floor so fast he probably didn't even remember his own name. After that, she helped him up like the responsible teacher she totally sometimes is, and thought back on what she'd just witnessed. He really might be able to do it. There's a path, one that no one's ever truly walked. A fighting style so unconventional, so insane, that most mages don't even consider it possible. But maybe, just maybe. This path, she said to Jaehyun, I think you're the only one crazy enough to walk it. The next day, our boy Jaehyun was still deep in thought, haunted by the words of the twin-headed guild president. But just as he was zoning out like an NPC stuck in an idle animation, a familiar voice snapped him back to reality. Turns out, today was Magic Cram School with his brand new tutor. Now, normally the Twin Eagles Guild Master is busier than a waiter at an all-you-can-eat buffet, so Jaehyun had to call in backup, none other than his buddy Ju-sung, who graciously agreed to dump some basic magic knowledge into Jaehyun's head. Apparently, magic isn't just waving your hands and yelling abracadabra. There are different schools. The main 3 are combat magic, enhancement magic, healing magic. And so, the basics kept coming non-stop. Jaehyun was like a sponge. A really confused, overworked sponge. Still, the system dinged in with a cheerful, magic understanding plus 5%. This system seriously wants him to be the next magic prodigy, or maybe it's just trying to avoid a bad ending to the story. Back in the crash course, Ju-sung was already sweating bullets. How the heck is he learning this fast? At this rate, he'll catch up to me in no time, she thought, somewhere between impressed and panicking. But hey, what does she know about the burden of being the protagonist? He's not leveling up for fun, he's on a 2-month countdown to a possible beheading. No pressure, right? Just as Jaehyun was about to fire back some sass at his friend, his subconscious glitched. Boom. Mysterious stranger alert. Someone shadowy popped up in his mind palace and whispered cryptic nonsense, classic anime moment. Though he couldn't quite remember what was said, probably something dramatic like "you are the chosen one," Jaehyun quickly shook it off and focused on more motivational thoughts. Like rare pills. You know, the shiny kind that helps awakeners break past their limits and survive another day in magic school hell. Meanwhile, over at Yonghwa Guild's training grounds, manager Sung Jae Kim was running around like a headless chicken, well, a very muscular, disciplined headless chicken. As the main instructor for this year's batch of rookies, he had his hands full. Still, he had to admit, this year's crop of young raiders was a definite upgrade from last year's bunch of walking disasters. Of course, watching from nearby was none other than the Haiyan Mighty Guild Master Song-eun. But Sung Jae, being the observant type, could tell from her poker face that her mind wasn't really on today's boot camp. Nope, she was clearly thinking about the new kid Jaehyun. Curious, Sung Jae asked her the big question: was she seriously planning to teach that to him? You know, that thing. The one so many skilled raiders had tried and failed at miserably. But in classic Song-eun fashion, she just gave her trademark confident smirk and said, if it's Jaehyun, he'll pull it off. After all, wasn't it Sung Jae himself who witnessed the kid's freakish talent firsthand? If Korea was ever going to get another S-rank mage, it'd have to be that crazy fast learner. For Song-eun, Jaehyun wasn't just a student, he was the future of Korean magic. Currently, she's still the only S-rank mage in South Korea. But since her specialty is healing magic, her combat skills are, let's just say, not exactly world-class. If someone like Jaehyun, young, gifted, and with actual firepower rose up through the ranks, it could flip the whole magical world on its head. Speaking of game changers, let's talk about mana boosters. In this world, these rare potions are basically steroids for mages. One sip, and your mana capacity gets a permanent upgrade. Naturally, every spellcaster out there dreams of owning one. Problem is, the recipe is basically written in suffering. Take Jaehyun's experience, for example. The poor guy had already burned through 3 expensive chunks of rare ingredients today trying to brew one. At first, things looked promising, the potion even turned the proper white color. But then, disaster. Another glorious, glittering failure. At this point in time, no one in the world had a clue how to actually make those magical mana-boosting potions. According to Jaehyun's future wiki of a brain, it would be another 5 years before the first one was ever revealed. When that happened, the man behind the miracle, a top-tier alchemist, stepped up to the mic and dropped the formula like it was hot. He even said he hoped the potion would help awakeners around the globe. Spoiler alert, it did. In fact, that potion was one of the key reasons mages started dominating the battlefield in the years to come. The alchemist's name? Lee Jae-sang. And yes, the man absolutely pulled it off. That's why Jaehyun, wasting no time, threw on his jacket with dramatic anime energy and set out to find the guy. If his memory was accurate, and let's face it, it usually was, then around this time Lee Jae-sang was just a baby-faced freshman at Millis Academy. That meant one destination, the city of Millis. Back when the world tree popped up and monsters started pouring into the human realm like it was a free-for-all, only a few could handle the chaos with their newly awakened powers. One of the early legends was Lee Jae-sin, the sword god, who pretty much became humanity's poster boy after the first awakened mysteriously vanished. He became the world's first S-rank conqueror. And the guy Jaehyun was looking for? None other than Lee Jae-sin's youngest son, the soon-to-be world-famous potion pioneer, Lee Jae-sang. After what felt like a lifetime on the train, seriously, who knew Magic World still had public transit delays, Jaehyun finally arrived in Daegu. Once a bustling hub, now the city looked like it came straight out of a zombie apocalypse movie, empty, ruined, and crawling with leftover monster vibes. But there was still one shining reason to come here, Millis Academy. The place held some of Jaehyun's worst memories. And yet, here he was again, stepping through its gates. This time, though, he wasn't some lost soul. This time, he was on a mission to become a mage and rewrite his destiny. As far as he remembered, Lee Jae-sang might have been enrolled in the combat division, but the guy had about as much battle spirit as a wet sponge. Not only did he hate fighting, but he was also famously bad at it. So, the real question was, where on earth would a non-combat nerd be hiding in a school full of warrior wannabes? While walking around lost in thought like a main character brooding about destiny, Jaehyun suddenly noticed a crowd gathered up ahead. And if anime tropes have taught us anything, it's this: where there's noise, there's plot. Sure enough, 2 students near the front were gossiping like it was the hottest drama on campus. Apparently, some poor stuttering kid was getting bullied inside by a senior with a chip on his shoulder. Jaehyun narrowed his eyes. Bingo. Looks like he found his man. Without even blinking, Jaehyun marched right through the crowd like Moses parting the Red Sea, except slightly more dramatic and probably with theme music playing in his head. Just as he flung the door open, a blue-haired boy came flying out like a soccer ball at the wrong end of a World Cup match. Yeah. That had to be Lee Jae-sang. But before Jaehyun could say, mission complete, a new problem popped up. Standing tall, or at least trying to, was the wannabe gangster who'd been using Lee Jae-sang as his personal punching bag. Apparently, this guy was a senior at the academy and felt the need to offer Jaehyun some friendly advice. And by friendly, I mean the get lost before I add you to my combo streak kind. What, you got business with the stuttering shrimp I'm dealing with? the guy sneered. Jae-hyun ignored him completely, walked up to Lee Jae-sang, and casually asked if he was okay like this whole thing wasn't turning into a live-action fight scene. Oh, the bully grinned, slapping a mocking hand on Jae-hyun's shoulder. So you're the shrimp's little brother or something? What is this, a 2-for-1 weakling special? Buddy, you should have stopped at the taunt. Bad move. See, messing with Jae-hyun is like trying to kick a beehive in flip-flops. One clean punch later, and the tough guy went flying back like a physics demonstration in slow motion. Turning to Jae-sang, Jae-hyun simply said, "You should probably step aside." Actually, no, go to the infirmary. You're gonna need more than a band-aid after this mess. Now, as for our dear slick-haired bully, let's just say he wasn't exactly thrilled about being publicly body-checked by a newcomer. With his ego bruised and his pride gasping for air, he barked, "You got a death wish, kid? You really think you can pull this kind of stunt on my turf?" Ah, classic. Turns out Mr. Musclehead here was feeling extra bold just because he happened to be a student from the warrior class. You know, the type who thinks swinging a sword automatically makes him the alpha of every room. Too bad for him Jae-hyun didn't come to play house. Without so much as a warm-up, Jae-hyun snapped his fingers like he was ordering room service and boom. A flash of magic shot straight at the guy specifically, a top-tier skill known as Divine Arrow. It hit him square in the chest, and just like that, our warrior boy was seeing stars and foaming at the mouth like a soda can after being drop-kicked. In case you're wondering, that spell wasn't copied from anyone's cheat sheet. Jae-hyun had studied and learned it the old-fashioned way, with actual theory. Shocking, I know. Nearby, Lee Jae-sang was basically speechless. The guy had just witnessed someone casting high-level magic without even muttering an incantation. That was practically sorcery royalty right there. The surrounding students looked equally stunned, because let's face it, a mage one-shotting a warrior wasn't something you saw every day. Whispers started spreading like wildfire. Wait, he's a mage? No way, he just beat a warrior class student? Did that guy fake his way into the combat division or what? The more the crowd talked, the more the bruised warrior's temper flared. His reputation was circling the drain, and his self-image was clinging to the edge for dear life. Grinding his teeth, he growled, "I don't know who you are or where you crawled out from, but you're dead meat." And with that, he whipped out a sword from his inventory like he was about to enter a final boss battle. Things just got real. At that moment, Jae-hyun suddenly recalled one of the many magic theories drilled into his brain by the ever-so-serious guildmaster. The lesson? To create a mana shield, all you had to do was concentrate your mana and wrap it around your body. Easy peasy. The result? Incoming attacks just bounce right off like bugs hitting a windshield. Well, guess it's time for a test drive, he thought. Activate, mana shield. And just as Slickhead's sword came slicing in, it smacked into Jae-hyun's barrier and ricocheted right off, leaving its wielder in full-blown shock. Turns out, Jae-hyun's mana wall had way more defense than this guy's sword had offense. Right after that came the follow-up, cat claw strike, right to the ego. You done playing around, psycho? Jae-hyun asked, not waiting for a reply. Boom. Another round of Divine Arrow. And this time, our wannabe warrior was officially face down on the floor, looking like he'd just been hit by karma, physics, and a small truck all at once. Meanwhile, Lee Jae-sang was off to the side, halfway convinced his soul had already left his body. Jae-hyun grabbed him by the arm before he could fully disassociate from reality. But just as they were about to leave, Jae-hyun paused. He glanced back at the beat-up face of his former punching bag and let out a sigh. I mean, it feels kind of wrong to leave him like that. So, like a reluctant good guy in a fantasy rom-com, he pulled out a healing potion. I didn't buy this for charity, but I guess saving a life is worth more than 7 magic towers or whatever. With that, he poured the potion directly onto the guy's face while Jae-sang watched in horror, unsure whether this was healing or a really weird revenge move. Okay, now can we go? Jae-hyun asked. He casually dragged Jae-sang off for medical attention. Or so he claimed, A few minutes later. This doesn't look like the way to the infirmary, Jae-sang muttered, eyes darting nervously. Jae-hyun stopped and turned to him, all calm and casual. No one's gonna overhear us here, right? At that moment, Jae-sang's expression did a complete 180 from confused to concerned. Yup. This guy clearly knew something. And now, Jae-sang realized. He was the reason Jae-hyun had come looking in the first place. Thinking it over, Jae-hyun looked straight at the guy and asked, "Wait, are you the one my dad sent?" Cue awkward silence. Of course, the answer was a solid no. Jae-sang looked like he'd just been accused of tax fraud. Jae-hyun scratched his head and admitted, "Honestly, I don't even know who your dad is." But looking at Jae-sang's deeply suspicious, "don't gaslight me" face, it was clear the guy wasn't buying any of it. Anyway, Jae-hyun quickly shifted gears. "Let's skip the drama. I came to ask you a favor," he said. "I need help making a potion." And the second the word potion left his mouth, Jae-sang practically turned into a malfunctioning robot. He waved his hands and shook his head like his life depended on it. "Nope. Not me. I don't know anything about that kind of stuff," he blurted, eyes darting around for an escape route. Classic lie. But unfortunately for him, Jae-hyun had already come prepared. Slowly, he pulled out a certain potion from his coat pocket, the same kind that had recently been listed on the black market. Jae-hyun held it up like it was Exhibit A in court. "Tell me this doesn't look familiar." And that was it. Jae-sang's soul visibly left his body. Busted. The only thing running through Jae-sang's head now was, how the heck does this guy know about that? No way he could have tracked that back to me from the black market. Right? Right. Unfortunately, Jae-hyun could read the dude's face like an open book. He chuckled to himself. Yup. He's definitely panicking. But don't worry, I didn't pull some James Bond stunt to get this info. Truth was, nobody could actually trace transactions back from the black market. That place operated like an underground magic eBay on steroids, protected by the AECA system, which ensured airtight user anonymity. Prices, inventory, deals, all encrypted. Zero leaks. Still, Jae-hyun knew just enough to rattle the cage. That was exactly why, not too long ago, Jae-hyun had seriously considered selling the Eye of God. I mean, he's not stupid. Walking into a fancy auction house with that thing casually tucked in his pocket? Yeah, no thanks. That's a shortcut to getting robbed, stabbed, or both. But the good news? Even though his current system was still in its beta version phase, at least it was compatible with the black market. Gotta love modern magical convenience. Right now, though, Jae-hyun had one top priority: get Lee Jae-sang to help him craft a mana-boosting potion. No excuses. So, he held up the potion bottle in front of Jae-sang's face like he was offering a cursed artifact. "Tell me, is this your work?" Of course, Jae-sang immediately denied it. "Nope. Not mine. Never seen it before in my life." But his acting? Let's just say the drama club wouldn't be calling anytime soon. Jae-hyun raised an eyebrow. "Okay, enough games. I'm out of time. I need your help now." The tone had shifted. No more jokes. Jae-hyun was serious. Jae-sang stood there, frozen, visibly waging war with his conscience. On one hand, this was dangerous. Very dangerous. On the other hand, he was broke. And keeping secrets from his super intimidating father had sort of become a hobby lately. In the end, desperation won. "Fine," Jae-sang muttered. "I'll help you. But promise me, no one else can know about this." Jae-hyun nodded, satisfied. Deal made. Now the real fun could begin. Jae-hyun briefly explained the potion he was trying to make: a mana enhancement potion. Not just any potion, though. This bad boy could permanently boost a mage's mana. The second Jae-sang heard that, he shot up like someone had just announced free gold. His eyes sparkled with disbelief. Wait. There's actually a potion that can do that? Immediately, he entered full-on brainiac mode, muttering theories faster than a caffeine-fueled wizard. If it's permanent, then maybe the Marigora root series? Or possibly Jotunheim spring water. Nearby, Jaehyun watched in amazement. Just moments ago, Jae-sang was the human embodiment of stage fright, stuttering his way through sentences. Now, he was rattling off alchemy theories like a professor mid-lecture. And just based on the desired effect alone, Jae-sang had already guessed most of the core ingredients. No recipe. No notes. Just pure nerd instinct. That was it. Decision made. Jaehyun was going to recruit this genius, no matter what. He stood up, looked Jae-sang in the eyes, and gave him a pep talk straight out of a shounen anime. Even if you mess up, it's fine. I just need you to focus on the potion. I'll handle the rest. With that, Jaehyun turned and walked off cool as ever, cloak probably flapping behind him for extra dramatic effect. Left alone, Jae-sang sat in stunned silence. And then, the memories came flooding back. His sad backstory unfolded like a montage. Always seen as the weak one. Never quite as gifted as his siblings. Lost his mom at a young age. His dad barely acknowledged his existence. Basically, the guy's childhood was a long, gray rainy day. But now finally someone had put their trust in him. For the first time ever, someone looked at him not as a burden, but as a genius. Days flew by like a montage on fast forward, and before Jaehyun knew it, there were only 11 days left until the dreaded 2-month deadline. No pressure, right? As usual, he kept up his training with the ever-composed guildmaster Song-eun. At the same time, he continued his theory lessons with Ju-sung, his ever-so-lovely tutor. With his natural talent for magic and a surprisingly solid grasp of warrior basics, his growth rate was nothing short of absurd. From the perspective of your average awakener, Jaehyun wasn't just leveling up, he was speedrunning life. These days, his divine arrow spell could even pierce through Song-eun's mana shield, which was basically her saying, "Okay, calm down." His mastery of other active skills had also taken a terrifying leap. The power boost was real. And just when the two were about to go all out in their final exchange of blows, manager Sun Jae came sprinting in like his salary depended on it, which, let's be real, it probably did. Time out. Time out. If you guys keep going, we'll need a whole new training room. Turns out, even the reinforced metal walls of the facility were starting to give in under their attacks. Apparently, the room was built to withstand monsters, not magical nukes from overachieving students. After things calmed down, Song-eun turned to Jae-hyun with a suspiciously sweet smile and asked, "Be honest. Are you secretly studying somewhere else? Because there's no way basic practice sessions are giving you this much control." To which Jae-hyun casually replied that he was learning theory from a friend. He didn't go into detail, of course. No need to bring up her. Just thinking about that chaotic, scatterbrained mess of a friend was enough to make his eye twitch. So yeah, let's keep her name off the record for everyone's sake. In front of the guild hall, Song-eun brought up that one topic again, the little proposal from a few days back. "So, I heard you're thinking of diving into an M-rank dungeon again?" Jae-hyun nodded without hesitation. "Yeah, just want to test how far I've come." That was the official reason. The real reason? Let's just say it was way too complicated and probably unbelievable, so there was no point bringing it up. Another day passed. And bright and early the next morning, someone came knocking at Jaehyun's door. Who else but our favorite mad scientist in training, Jae-sang. One look at his face and Jae-hyun could already guess this guy had been through absolute alchemical hell for the past month. Sleepless nights, explosions, emotional damage, you name it. But in the end, the bottle in his hand was proof that suffering sometimes pays off. Without even blinking, Jae-hyun grabbed the potion and downed it like a shot of espresso. Human trial phase, initiated. And surprise surprise, it worked. Like, really worked. His mana stat jumped by 15 points on the spot. That wasn't just impressive, it was borderline broken. Even the taste had been upgraded. What used to be pure bitterness now had a sweet aftertaste. Jay Sang had apparently added flavor like he was brewing bubble tea instead of black market magic. Honestly? Jae-hyun might have just found himself a 5-star personal alchemist. Alchemy has always been, well, a nightmare. Even with the same recipe, the final result can vary wildly depending on who's doing the brewing. It's like cooking. Two people follow the same instructions, but one ends up with a gourmet dish and the other with something that belongs in the trash. Jae-hyun knew one thing for sure: if he had asked anyone else for help before, there was no way the result would have been this effective. Forget plus 15 mana, he would have been lucky to get plus 5. Maybe even plus 1 and a mild stomachache. Feeling satisfied, Jae-hyun gave a brief goodbye nod to his new teammate. It was time. Time to face that shadow again. Time remaining, 9 days and 22 hours. Standing at the dungeon gate, Jae-hyun had all the gear he could possibly need courtesy of the Manhwa Guild. This was it. No more testing, no more simulations. If not now, then when? Without hesitation, he stepped into the gate, with manager Sung Jae watching from behind, probably praying his star recruit didn't get turned into dungeon fertilizer. Just like last time, the moment he crossed over, he was instantly transported to Hyeom, better known as the Land of Death. Jae-hyun's goal was simple: defeat the shadow. If he could pull that off, he was sure he'd see her again. The woman who ruled one of the 9 realms. The goddess named Hyo. And just like that, the battle against the skeleton army kicked off again. But this time things felt different. Faster. Smoother. Deadier. It was clear this wasn't going to be some drawn-out, dramatic boss fight like last time. Nope, Jae-hyun was on a whole new level now. The path that Guildmaster Song-eun had laid out for him? Magic Swordmaster. Sounds cool, right? But here's the catch: nobody's ever actually succeeded at becoming one. Not even close. Too far from the raw firepower of a full-fledged mage. Not quite the brute force of a warrior class either. Basically, it's a combat style that lives in the weird gray area between long-range spells and up-close beatdowns. Most people took one look and said, no thanks. But not Song-eun. She believed Jae-hyun could pull it off. In fact, she believed he'd be the first person to ever succeed on that impossible path. And honestly? The way he was mowing through undead like he was running a skeleton clearance sale. She might be onto something. Meanwhile, just outside the dungeon gate, manager Sung Jae was standing watch like the loyal gatekeeper he was. Everything seemed calm until suddenly, he felt something off in the air. A strange aura. A disturbance in the magical force, if you will. And then, out of nowhere, she arrived. Jeonzo. An old acquaintance of Sung Jae's, one of those people who somehow always shows up at the most inconvenient moments. This time, she was here on behalf of a rival guild. The conversation kicked off with a question that reeked of trouble. I've heard a rumor. Is it true that Song-eun the Saintess herself is sick? Sung Jae blinked. Classic Jeonzo, going straight for the kill. He smiled politely but firmly, which was corporate speak for not telling you squat. There was no way he was going to hand over intel like that to someone from a competing guild. He didn't know how they got that information, but loose lips sink magical ships. Best to stay quiet. Realizing she wasn't getting anything juicy, Jeonzo casually shifted the topic. She pulled out a photo, one that clearly showed Jae-hyun walking alongside the oh-so-mysterious saintess. She held it up like a detective presenting evidence in court. You know this kid? Seems like he's been hanging around your guild headquarters a lot lately. Sung Jae raised an eyebrow. Here we go again. And just like before, he said nothing. No confirmation. No denial. Just professional stonewalling at its finest. Not that it mattered much to Jeonzo. She already had her suspicions, and honestly, this was just another task on her guild's to-do list. Someone had to show up, ask questions, and collect absolutely nothing useful in return. Still, she had a job to do and a paycheck to justify. So after a few moments of awkward silence, she nodded, spun on her heel, and hopped back into her car. Back to the office. Mission technically complete. Back inside the dungeon, Jae-hyun had officially wiped out every last skeleton soldier like they were discount minions in a tutorial level. Now, there was just one enemy left between him and mission complete. Long time no see. Shadow. He barely finished his sentence before the boss made the first move, classic villain energy. But this wasn't 2 months ago. Jae-hyun now was faster, sharper, and way more annoying to fight. The Shadow tried to go in for the kill, but Jae-hyun danced around the attacks like he was in a rhythm game. Then came the counterattack, divine arrow straight to the face. Followed by a slick combo of martial arts and magic. Spell, logic. Not just a name, but also a vibe. As soon as the Shadow showed even a hint of hesitation, Jae-hyun pounced. But of course, this was him. And in him, bosses don't go down that easy. Not even close. It didn't take long. The Shadow snapped out of Jae-hyun's logic spell like it was nothing and immediately entered phase 2. You know it's serious when the boss gets an upgrade mid-fight. This new form? Berserk mode. All stats boosted by 1.5 times. New skill set unlocked. Anger issues? Maxed out. And just when Jae-hyun thought he'd seen it all, a mysterious black mist snaked its way around him out of nowhere. System message. You've been hit with the curse of the brand. You've got 10 minutes to defeat the boss or you drop dead. Instantly. No retries. No potions. Just good luck. Naturally, Jae-hyun tried to cleanse it with purification seal. Did it work? Not even a little. Because this curse wasn't your average debuff, it came directly from the top. As in, the literal ruler of Hyeom, Hyo. Yup. Turns out the goddess herself was watching and decided to spice things up. Why? Because nothing says motivation like win or die horribly. At this point, things couldn't be clearer. Jae-hyun had exactly 10 minutes to end this fight or kiss his life goodbye. No pressure. With that lovely thought in mind, he bolted straight at the Shadow, aiming for a quick and dirty win. But of course, the boss had to play dirty too. The moment it realized Jae-hyun was on a timer, it didn't stand its ground like a proper villain. Nope, it ran. Ran like its rent was due and Jae-hyun was the landlord. Unbelievable. Clearly, that goddess Hyo had cooked up this scheme with the Shadow from the start. Rigged boss fight much? So, after several rounds of cat and mouse, more like Warlock vs Shadow Monster, Jae-hyun realized something crucial: whatever he was doing, it wasn't working. Time to kick it up a notch. And decided to unleash phase 2 of Hishin, the AoE special. Boo it! Just as he was about to cast it, bam. The Shadow landed a direct hit with a fierce spell. Yup. Instant psychological warfare. Jae-hyun found himself paralyzed, heart pounding like he'd just opened a surprise exam he didn't study for. It wasn't looking good. Back and forth they went, tossing spells and shattering magic like two kids in a dodgeball match from hell. But by the 5th minute, Jae-hyun knew. This couldn't go on. And so, a plan was born. Step 1, whip up a good OL dust storm using wind flash. Boom! Instant visual blackout. While the Shadow was busy trying to blink through all the chaos, Jae-hyun made his move. He gathered his mana and dropped the hammer literally with thunderstrike. Lightning rained from the sky, zapping the boss with a vengeance. Even if the Shadow somehow managed to tank that, it didn't matter. Because Jae-hyun had already activated the true final form Hishin, Judgment of Light. A divine storm exploded across the battlefield, a holy beatdown tailor-made for undead nuisances like the Shadow. And just like that. Boss, deleted. The cursed seal on Jae-hyun's body? Gone. Inventory? Overflowing with loot. Level? +3. Oh, and let's not forget the icing on the cake. Achievement unlocked, Trial 1, cleared. And just a few seconds later, the divine system casually dropped the news. You've been summoned to the Temple of Hell. Because apparently, after you obliterate a high-ranking death creature, the goddess of the underworld wants to have a chat. But surprise! The one who came to greet Jae-hyun wasn't the elegant goddess of the underworld. Nope. It was her pet. A literal, giant hellhound. And let's just say, the puppy wasn't exactly wagging its tail. In fact, Jae-hyun was about half a second away from becoming Chew Toy of the Year. Until a mysterious voice echoed through the temple. Bring my guest inside. Now. Yeah. That saved his life. And so, our boy Jae-hyun was finally face to face with Hell, the death goddess herself. No need for small talk, he cut straight to the chase. Why did you give me a trash tier system and then toss me into death matches like it's some divine reality show? Hell, completely unbothered, smiled. Congrats, mortal. You passed the first trial. And for the record, that trash system? It was given to you for a reason. You are the chosen one. Yep. That old chestnut. Apparently, Jae-hyun had been handpicked by fate to take on some cosmic-level enemy. He wasn't just some overachiever in a fantasy RPG. He was the rival. The designated nemesis to Aisha, the Golden Child. The one prophesied to eventually slay Odin himself. Wait, what? Jae-hyun's face said it all. Why me though? Can't you find someone with less trauma? To which Hell basically replied. Buddy, you were born for this. Literally. Turns out, Jae-hyun's entire past life was just a prologue to the divine chaos about to unfold. Hell implied that the dumb luck he had in his past life weren't just coincidence. They were the result of divine strings being pulled. All part of some grand plan hatched by gods like Loki and company. The Eye of Odin? Yeah, Jae-hyun was meant to steal that. The beginner baby system? Also part of the plan. Basically, the gods hit reset on his life to prep him for the big leagues. Because the moment he finishes, so Hell gently touched his lips and smirked. I know. You're panicking. Being a pawn in the gods' chessboard kinda sucks, huh? Then her tone got serious. But remember this. This isn't just about the gods with a splash of Aisha blood in their veins. This involves everyone. The world? Yeah, it's spiraling straight toward doomsday. All thanks to Odin and his dream of merging the 9 realms like he's trying to complete a cosmic IKEA set. And to stop him? The gods need the power of one person. The one foretold to become Odin's worst nightmare. And guess who that is? Right. Our boy Jae-hyun. Get stronger, until the day we meet again, Hell said, all mysterious and dramatic. Then boom, Jae-hyun was booted out of Helheim like yesterday's trash. Dude barely got any answers. Just a bunch of ominous lore dumps and a divine you'll figure it out eventually. Still, it wasn't a total loss. Because now he had a shiny new passive skill, Hell's Blessing. Legendary tier. Basically, it makes him immune to every debuff under the sun. Poison? Nope. Fear? Nah. Paralysis? Not today, Satan. Or as Jae-hyun would call it, the ultimate cleanse skill, baby. Back in the underworld, Hell wasn't done yet. She had a little fireside chat with another god, Mimir. Yep, that Mimir. The old geezer known for his so-called infinite wisdom. She asked him what he thought about her meeting with the great rival. Mimir shrugged and played it cool. But Hell? She wasn't buying the act. Let's drop the fake small talk, shall we? You didn't come all the way here just to pat me on the back. Then came the accusations. You think I wouldn't notice the prophecy's been tampered with? You really gonna play dumb until the very end, old man? Oh, and one more bombshell. The left eye of the chosen one? That's Odin's eye. The one he sacrificed for knowledge. Cue dramatic silence. Mimir, now fully exposed, still said nothing. Didn't deny it. didn't confirm it. Just stood there, being the shady, silent puppet master that he was. And hell? Let's just say she wasn't amused. So yeah, Mimir and Loki's little master plan? Apparently, it's all fate or whatever, so obviously, top secret stuff. Hel didn't really expect much else from that cryptic old fox. But don't worry, she's already cooking up a spicy little scheme of her own. See, our great nemesis still needs some polishing. The prophecy boy's got potential, but let's be honest, his decision-making skills could use some serious guidance. So Hel figured, why not give him a nudge in the right direction? Cut to the prestigious Millis Academy. Day 1. Jae-hyun, future destroyer of gods, is out shopping. Yeah, you heard right. He's being dragged around by his personal assistant Hannah, aka the overachieving secretary with a black belt and budgeting exactly 01. They're prepping gear before orientation. But Jae-hyun? Mentally checked out. Too much chaos recently to care about shopping sprees. And yet, here he is, standing in front of a dagger so fancy it probably comes with its own birth certificate. Before he can even blink, Hannah throws down 300 million won like she's buying snacks at 7-Eleven. Wrap it up. We'll take it. Jae-hyun, broke boy extraordinaire, nearly faints. Wait, y'all just dropping hundreds of millions, on a knife? Turns out it's no ordinary blade, it's infused with mana. Still, Jae-hyun's poor kid soul was not ready for that level of flex. But hold up, it gets better. Hannah whips out a shopping list the size of a scroll. And Jae-hyun just quietly watches his life savings evaporate in real time. More gear, more safety, Hannah chirps. Jae-hyun internally, lady, I'm not Iron Man. Still, not everything was bad. Jae-hyun had managed to collect a shiny new item, a B-rank dark armor. Cool, right? Even better, it came with a stealth ability. When Jae-hyun mentioned the word stealth, Hannah, who had joined the conversation later, nearly choked. Wait, like, invisible armor? You're looking for invisible armor now? To be fair, most awakeners would kill for something like that. But good luck finding one. It's not like stealth gear grows on dungeon trees. She went on to explain that only one person in all of South Korea actually had a stealth skill. And that person? North Manager Sung Jae. He's my brother. Hugh Jae-hyun's brain short-circuiting. Wait, that's Sung Jae? Grumpy face, always yelling, looks like he eats nails for breakfast? He's a high-level awakened with stealth magic? And Hannah's older brother. None of this made sense. The world was officey. Just as Jae-hyun was silently trying to wrap his head around everything, a sudden surge of energy flared up nearby so strong, even the all-seeing eye picked it up. Lights began flashing all around him, looking way too familiar. Wait a minute. Could this be the gateway to the treasure vault? Without wasting a second, Jae-hyun bolted toward the source, yelling behind him, Hannah. Hold on a sec. And what he saw when he arrived? Something he'd never laid eyes on before. Ever. Meanwhile, at a totally different place, because we love a good cutscene. A duel between two awakeners was wrapping up. And surprise, surprise, the winner was a Ho-jun. Again. Honestly, everyone else seemed used to it. Like, oh, Ho-jun won? Cool. What's for lunch? But Ho-jun? Yeah, he wasn't exactly celebrating. Because for him, every victory felt hollow. His father didn't see him as a person. Just a tool. A machine designed to achieve success at all costs. Trained. Pushed. Programmed. No dreams. No freedom. Just a living trophy for someone else's ambition. And deep down, Ho-jun knew. This wasn't the kind of conqueror he ever wanted to become. A few hours later, post-battle and still emotionally drained, Ho-jun found himself being dragged out on another essential shopping trip by his ever-pushy father. Apparently, winning wasn't enough. Now it was time to upgrade again. New armor. New weapons. Knew everything. Because according to Dad, a future S-rank conqueror needed to look the part too. Ho-jun, of course, was completely against it. I don't need more gear, he argued. But his father wasn't listening. He never did. When Ho-jun finally asked the one thing really bothering him. What about Mom's hospital bills this month? All he got back was a cold, threatening glare. Don't worry about anything else. Just focus on getting stronger. So, there he was. Following behind his father like a silent shadow, trailing through gear shop's H. He looked around at the flashy equipment, the glowing swords, the insane price tags. And couldn't help but feel like a circus animal dressed up, on display, and completely caged. Thinking back, the moment Ho-jun first awakened, it wasn't fireworks or dramatic music that greeted him. It was his mother's gentle smile, soft, warm, full of hope. To her, he was the light at the end of a long tunnel. A miracle in the middle of poverty. But to his father? He was just a blueprint. A tool to be sharpened. A machine to be programmed. And little by little, Ho-jun was becoming exactly that, a walking command line in human form. He was deep in thought when suddenly an emergency announcement echoed through the mall speakers. There has been a dungeon overflow near the commercial district. All civilians, please follow evacuation protocols immediately. Panic broke out. People scrambled. But Ho-jun's father? Still calm. Still in control. He simply turned to his son and said, "Leave. Now. You're the future of Korea. You can't afford a scratch before Millis Academy's entrance exam." And, technically, he wasn't wrong. Guild reinforcements would arrive soon. But what about the civilians? The kids? The elderly? Was he really supposed to walk away and pretend this wasn't happening? Ho-jun clenched his fists. No. Not this time. Without another word, he turned and sprinted toward the chaos, ignoring his father's shouts behind him. This wasn't just about monsters. This was his chance. His chance to reclaim what being a conqueror truly meant. To prove, to himself, not his father, that he could protect. That he could become the kind of hero his mother had always dreamed of. But the moment Ho-jun came face to face with the goblins. Yeah, reality hit him like a brick. Turns out, charging into danger with big heroic intentions was the easy part. Actually fighting monsters? Not so much. As the goblins closed in, his body froze. Completely. The only thing still working? His knees, trembling like a leaf in a typhoon. How can low-level monsters like these scare me this much? He couldn't understand it. Wasn't he supposed to be some future elite conqueror? But right now, he wasn't moving. Not even a twitch. The goblin raised its crude sword, ready to end this epic quest before it ever began. Then, slash. A blur zipped past. And just like that, the goblin was on the ground, squealing. Ho-jun blinked. Standing there, calm and cool as ever, was Jae-hyun. That was close, Jae-hyun muttered, glancing over. Then he paused. Wait a second, that guy, isn't he a Ho-jun? Let's rewind a bit. Just a few minutes earlier, Jae-hyun had stumbled upon a mysterious stone. It glowed in a weird way, so obviously he stuffed it straight into his inventory. I mean, if the all-seeing eye says it's important, who are we to argue? Right then, Secretary Hannah found him and gave him the urgent update. Dungeon overflow. Civilians in danger. And boom, off he went, ready to clear the field. Fast forward back to now, he had just sliced his way through a mini goblin army only to run into, well, a very stuck-looking genius. Of all places to meet the famous, unfortunate prodigy Ho-jun, it had to be here? But no time for small talk. First, they had some goblins to turn into goblin stew. Jae-hyun calmly walked toward Ho-jun, who was still frozen like a discount mannequin on display. He raised an eyebrow and said, Hey, you gonna stand there all day, or are you planning on picking up that sword anytime soon? And just like that, as if someone flipped a mental switch, Ho-jun's fear poof vanished into thin air. Was this one of those legendary awakening under pressure moments? No one knew for sure. But what mattered was that Ho-jun finally remembered. Right, he was supposed to be saving people and slicing monsters, not daydreaming about death. In the front lines, Jae-hyun barked another order. Use taunt. Get every last goblin's attention. We're not leaving survivors. Without hesitation, Ho-jun drew his sword and activated his skill. Battle cry, taunt. Instantly, every goblin within 50 meters turned their bloodshot eyes toward him like he just insulted all their goblin moms at once. From the side, Jae-hyun couldn't help but admire the scene. The technique was solid. The form? Sharp. If he ignored the tiny fact that he had lived 2 lives, Ho-jun really did live up to the title of martial arts prodigy. That said, Jae-hyun couldn't forget one thing from his past life. Ho-jun never made it beyond B rank. Something happened. No one knew what, but despite all the current hype, his fame didn't last. Still, the future wasn't written in stone. At least, not this time. And just maybe, with a little nudge, everything could change. As Jae-hyun effortlessly mowed down wave after wave of monsters with his signature combo of logic and lightning, the battlefield finally went quiet. And right on cue, because of course this always happens, someone else decided to show up after all the hard work was done. Classic cop movie timing. The newcomer introduced himself in proper badge-flashing fashion. Gam-hun. National Punishment Bureau, Central HQ. He glanced around at the neatly stacked monster corpses. So, was it you two who cleaned this up? Ho-jun nodded like a kid who just turned in his homework early. Yes, sir. Gam-hun squinted, processing what he was seeing. Wait a second, aren't you that prodigy people keep whispering about? The one everyone's placing bets on? Yep. Ho-jun was the real deal. The only surprise here was how young he looked. Gam-hun sighed, already imagining the migraine this report would give him. Because let's be real, how exactly are you supposed to explain to your boss that 2 high schoolers just wiped out an entire dungeon breach before the grown-ups even arrived? No matter how you spin it, it sounds like a plot twist written by a caffeinated novelist on a deadline. Well, actually, this was exactly what Jae-hyun had been planning to bring up. He turned to Gong-hoon and casually dropped a bomb. Just credit Ho-jun for the whole thing. There's no cameras, no black boxes, nobody's gonna dig too deep. A plus logic. Low profile, high efficiency. But of course, Ho-jun, being the righteous cinnamon roll he is, immediately objected. What? That's not right. You're the one who took out most of the monsters. Hugh Gong-hoon absolutely glitching for a second. Wait, what now? All this time he thought it was the sword prodigy who cleaned house like a human blender. Now he finds out it was the quiet one with the poker face? This day just kept getting weirder. As for Jae-hyun, he just shook his head and politely noped out of the spotlight. He had his reasons. Letting anyone find out he'd switched over to magic? Yeah, no thanks. The last thing he needed was some nosy official piecing things together before his secret revenge plan was ready to launch. Silent prep, sneaky takedown. That's the vibe. Meanwhile, Ho-jun, after being emotionally ninja-kicked by Jae-hyun's words, started to think it over. Deep down, he didn't want to take all the credit, but let's be real, that reward money? Kinda vital for helping his mom out. So, after a long internal debate and Jae-hyun's gentle psychological judo, Ho-jun finally gave in. Alright, I'll do it, but I owe you. Big time. Of course, what he didn't know was that he'd walked right into Jae-hyun's plan. The guy wasn't just throwing favors for fun, he was stacking social credit like a mastermind building his future army. Fast forward to the next day, first official day at Millis Academy. As expected, the spotlight was practically glued to Sword Prodigy Ho Jun cameras, whispers, fanboys, you name it. But in the background, another figure started catching attention too, Selena. And if you peeked into Jae Hyun's past life files, you'd know, this girl was no ordinary rookie. In the old timeline, she became one of the top-tier punishers. Recruiting her to his side would definitely be a power move, but Jae Hyun figured there was no need to rush. I mean, come on. At this point, the guy already had a dream team forming behind him, the guild leader and walking cheat code Song-eun, Sword Prodigy A Ho Jun, and alchemy wonder kid Lee Jae-sang. Right on cue, the headmaster of Millis Academy stepped forward to deliver his warm welcome. Greetings, students. I'm Gu Jae-in, the headmaster of Millis. Down below, Jae Hyun's expression shifted faster than a boss battle at 5% HP. Just hearing that name was enough to boil his blood. This guy was directly connected to Ju Sung's tragic death in his past life. A girl who, by all means, should have grown to be one of the top 3 magic users of their generation. And yet, here that smug old man stood, pretending like nothing ever happened. Meanwhile, the headmaster kept babbling through the opening ceremony like he hadn't just triggered someone's trauma. And just when everyone thought they could finally catch a breath, bam! Twist reveal, it was time for Millis Academy's signature welcome event. A friendly little chaos simulator where students must steal each other's name tags. That's right, freshman tag hunting season had officially begun. As soon as his words ended, all the newbies got magically yeeted into a whole new arena like contestants on a very aggressive reality show. At the same time, over at the Yeonhwa Guild HQ, manager Sun Jae and guild leader Song-eun were casually chatting about sending a certain something to Jae Hyun. Though they both knew he'd be mid-trial by now, thankfully Sun Jae had already made the delivery the day before. And of course, Jae Hyun's response? Classic, don't worry. I got this. Cut to our main man Jae Hyun and the ever-stoic Ju Sung, who had just been teleported into what looked like the Academy's idea of an alternate dimension, probably designed by a game dev with too much free time. But they weren't alone. Out of the glowing mist appeared none other than Selena, the walking embodiment of elegance and danger. Yup, things were about to get interesting. Meanwhile, back at Millis Academy HQ, all the professors were huddled in the central control room like sports commentators on draft day, eyes glued to the screens as the freshman chaos unfolded. According to their preliminary evaluations, this year's batch of students was looking unusually stacked. Leading the hype was none other than swordsmanship prodigy A Ho Jun, the kind of talent that had even overseas guilds wagging their tails. Other names that raised eyebrows were Selena, Kim Ju-sung, and Lee Soo-hyuk. Sure, they were all technically in the mage class, but each one had a raw potential score clocking in at over 90%. Not bad at all. As for those mysterious students who requested to change classes mid-game? Yeah, their data was still pending update. Meanwhile, Principal Gu Jae-in was busy tossing shade like it was confetti. No need to waste brain cells on the job change students, he said, waving his hand like he was shooing a fly. They're usually just a mixed bag of leftovers anyway. In the great halls of Millis Academy, most candidates were undeniably talented, but among them stood a few sparkling exceptions, and at the top of that list was none other than a Ho Jun. According to Gu Jae-in, everyone else? Just stepping stones on Ho Jun's path to glory. The weak, he sneered. We don't need to hand out participation trophies. The whole point of this freshman hunt is to sniff out the real deal, the chosen few with actual power. Normally, when an awakened can't handle an enemy or gets caught with their pants down in danger, they're given one final chance. At the Academy's big awakening event, the goal is crystal clear: dig through a mountain of newbies to find that one hidden gem. Even if they have to throw away 100 C-rank rookies, as long as they find a single A-rank prodigy, it's all worth it. The whole hunt takes place on a half-artificial planet, conjured up through pure magic. Think of it like a sandbox where logic takes a vacation. Time bending? Gravity off switch? Sure, why not? Now, stats show that every year, around 50% of candidates crash and burn. That's when they realize their godlike skills are more like party tricks. As Ju-sung groggily wakes up, the principal drops a fresh announcement. Inside the simulation zone, students can only use skills ranked C or below. Your mission? Steal the name tags off your fellow classmates. Upperclassmen snatching a rookie's tag get 10,000 points. But if a freshman pulls off a reverse Uno and nabs a senior's tag, that's 100,000 points, baby. These points are your currency at Millis Academy. The more you grab, the easier your school life gets. Hearing the principal's announcement, Jae-hyun immediately smelled something fishy. The guy clearly had a plan, a not-so-nice one. Sure, he banned A-rank skills like logic, but not a single word about special skills. Yeah, this whole setup screamed, let's weed out the weaklings. Meanwhile, the headmaster added one more helpful detail. Inside this magical half-planet, all attack damage had been nerfed down to 1/10 of their usual power. So don't worry about getting hurt, folks. You'll just get emotionally scarred instead. Anyway, with that final motivational speech, the grand freshman hunt officially kicked off. Let the chaos begin. Inside this half-baked half-planet, survival came with perks, and a bunch of weird magical facilities. Like, who needs a sleeping bag when you've got traps that magically hand out mana like candy? Healing lakes, because band-aids are so last century. Nightmare forests, great for cardio if you like running from illusions. And a buffet of ecosystems offering snacks and cozy hideouts. If you wanted to last the full 3-day event without ending up as someone else's XP, job 1 was finding a decent place to crash. While Jae-hyun was doing some strategic thinking, Ju-sung suddenly dropped a curveball. Hey, what about teaming up with Xiao Aina? She asked. Wouldn't it be way safer to have her join us? Sure, on paper, forming a wizard trio sounded like a dream team. But Jae-hyun had zero intention of handing out friend requests just yet. Yeah, she's a top-tier magic cadet, he admitted. But people like her don't exactly come with a chill button. Even though he only knew her through the grapevine, it was obvious that Xiao Aina had a slight rage management issue. Plus, judging by the way she kept side-eyeing them like they owed her money, she clearly wasn't shopping for new friends. Before Jae-hyun could finish his thought, Ju-sung had already bolted off like a matchmaking missile. Hey Xiao Aina. Wanna squat up? 3 mages are better than 1, right? Aina didn't answer right away. Her eyes were locked onto something else. Because spoiler alert, before any friendship bracelets could be handed out, they had a much more pressing issue to deal with first. Just as the smoke cleared, 2 new figures dramatically stepped onto the scene, like some budget version of a boss intro cutscene. Meet Sin Jun Sang and Won So Jun, veteran students of the prestigious Millis Academy. So Jun narrowed her eyes, scanning the 3 newcomers with practiced focus. She could instantly gauge the strength of 2 of them. But the handsome dude standing in the middle? Nothing. Nada. 0 readings. It was like trying to sense the aura of a decorative rock. Ju-sung, clearly smarter than she looked, yanked on Jae-hyun's sleeve in full panic mode. Bro, we need to bounce. These guys are upperclassmen. And not just any, they're from the warrior class. Fighting them is literally asking for a respawn. But Jae-hyun didn't move a muscle. His feet were planted like a very stubborn tree. He knew that running was pointless. So Jun had a special skill that could track targets within a 300-meter radius. Basically, hide-and-seek with her was a losing game. Meanwhile, on the enemy side, Jun Sang looked like a man who'd already written his victory speech. Full of swagger, he unsheathed his sword with all the flair of a guy in a shampoo commercial. I'll make this quick, he boasted. So Jun, however, was visibly uncomfortable, clearly not vibing with Jun Sang's overconfidence. But Mr. Main Character Energy wasn't about to listen. He charged in with the confidence of someone who's never lost a Pokemon battle, only to realize, a few swings in, that something was seriously off. Still, with blind faith and the unshakable arrogance of a shounen side character, Jun Sang decided this was just a fluke. Must have gotten lucky, he muttered, sweating slightly. A flurry of sword strikes came flying at Jae-hyun like a blender on overdrive. Jun Sang was clearly trying to turn him into diced meat, but all he managed to cut was air. Again. And again. And again. Now drenched in sweat and ego damage, Jun Sang still hadn't landed a single hit. That's when Jae-hyun smirked and said, "Wow, Jun Sang. You're something else. How are you even still alive with that roly-poly body of yours?" With one swift motion, he crushed Jun Sang's sword like it was a breadstick. "Alright, I'll give you 3 seconds. Hand over your name tag, and scram." If you think this video is insanely awesome, don't forget to like and subscribe, and turn on the bell to catch all the latest updates.